Oh, Merry Christmas to all you AYS listeners out there. I couldn't contain myself. I wanted to open the show by saying ho ho ho, but I just couldn't do it because the only times I say ho ho ho, and I'm normally not referring to Christmas. Oh, but off we go. Welcome aboard. Glad you're with us. I am your host, Blake Ruffino. This is Are You Serious Sports? I hope that you're having a good one. We know that we are as well. It is the holiday season. Do. And we got a big show in store for you tonight on this Thursday night. We will talk some LSU versus Kansas State. We will talk we will talk a little bit in reference to Kansas State tonight as Derek Young from Rivals, who covers Kansas State, will be joining us tonight at 7:20. Let's take a look inside the Wildcats and what they have going on so that we can prepare for what will happen on January the 4th. As we do always on Tuesdays and Thursdays, hashtag Ask Blake. If you have a question, fire it inside the Rudy Crew chat, hashtag Ask Blake. John Hendricks, John J. Hendricks, the Saints prophet himself, joins us at 7:45 Central Time to talk the Saints and Ian Book, as the Saints have had a very, very interesting day. And John's going to break it down all for us as well. And at the end of the show, we will talk about the best Christmas movies that you watch during this holiday season. What are your favorite holiday movies? And if you bring some Hallmark Lifetime Rudy Poonis up in here, we're going to have issues. We're going to have issues. What is your favorite? I'll tell you mine. But let's get to a couple comments before we get started. Dion Black says, what about them lemon pepper steppers, y'all? You already know Big Daddy's got it on them lemon pepper steppers. I'm pretty sure it can't come from me. All of you need to get in touch with Crocs and tell them that they need to be an official sponsor of AYS for how much we push out the Crocs in here. Absolutely. Carl Dunn says, who you calling a hoe? I couldn't help it. I wanted to start the show by saying ho, ho, ho. But when I say ho, 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 it just never, usually – usually I'm looking at my X3X girlfriends going ho ho ho. All right. We're getting down a different path. We're getting down a different path. Tracy says rocking the AYS hat. Yeah, we've had it for a little while. We might be doing some mass productions of it soon. I dig it. The people like it. It's the people's hat. Adam says, it feels like I ain't been here in a minute. Let's go. Well, have you? We've been here. We've been rocking, brother. We've been rocking. All right, let's get to a couple more, and then we're going to get started. Lamar Williams says, Big Pressure is in the building. Yes, sir. And Danny says, Merry Christmas, everybody. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. All right. Let's get this thing rolling. All right, everybody do us a favor by hitting the like and share. Share to some Facebook groups. If you're on Facebook, do us a favor by hitting that like button. There's 142 of you inside there right now. So hit the like button, hit the share. Share to some Facebook groups. We would greatly, greatly appreciate it if you do that for us. If you're on YouTube, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and notification bell. We would greatly appreciate that as well. If you're listening to us on the podcast platform, you can subscribe there. If you're following us and listening to us on Twitter Periscope, don't forget to follow and hit that retweet button. So let's pay some bills around here, and then we'll get started. None better than our good friends over at GM Varno & Sons at betonline.ag. Guys, with 64 years of experience, nobody is better equipped to servicing your vehicle than GM Varno & Sons. RV repair, big rig overhauls, motorhome chassis, routine maintenance, tire rotations, tire sales. No job is too big or too small over at GM. Give them a call today at 225-664-9992. That's 225-664-9992. and tell them your good friend Blake Ruffino sent you on by, or just stop by and see them over at 2500 Florida Boulevard and our good friends over at betonline.ag. Guys, we got so many bowl games in the works. Look, the NFL is going to be a little wacky this week, so place your bets carefully. But the best place to do that is at betonline.ag. Use the Believe 50 AYS podcast tab. That way that they know that your good friend Blake Ruffino at AYS sent you on by. That's betonline.ag. betonline.ag. All right, let's get this thing rolling, y'all. Let's get this thing rolling, y'all. Fire in your questions, hashtag Ask Blake. I was going to get to some LSU Kansas State, and we can't do that, but let's get to a couple comments first. Holden Lee says, A Christmas Story, number 1, Adam Sandler, Eight Crazy Nights, number 2, and Friday After Next is number 3. Bo Holly says, Die Hard, Christmas movie or not? Blake, it's a Christmas movie. For all of the Rudy Poos who say that Die Hard isn't a Christmas movie, not only do you not know what you're talking about, you're probably the Grinch. And you never got the toys that you wanted for Christmas. Let me tell you, the 4 movies I watch around now and around Christmas Eve. Number 1, Home Alone. Number 2, Home Alone 2. Number 3, A Christmas Story. I'm going to give you 5. Number 4, Die Hard. And number 5, the original Santa Claus movie with Tom Hanks. And I might watch Santa Claus 2. If you don't watch it in that specific order, are you really living Christmas right? If you don't watch it in that specific order, you're doing it wrong. Okay. Pooh Bear says, hashtag Ask Blake, what's Christmas without A Christmas Story? I watch it at least 4 times on the 24-hour special. I can only watch it once, man. Oh, and Mark says Elf. See, I always forget about Elf. I always forget about it. Always, always, always. Okay. Let's get it rolling. Ryan says Full of Deer. I've never seen that one. I've never seen Full of Deer. I mean, I said Tom Hanks. Thank you, Eric. Tim Allen. Thank you. I said Tom Hanks. That's my bad, y'all. That's my bad. All right, let's get it rolling. Let's get on to some sports. We're not here to talk all about Christmas movies. Now we will, because this is our last show of the week and before Christmas happens. Also, hey buddy. Also, we just, it's going to be a fun show. Got to get all of you to hit the like and share though. You got to do it. Look, let me say this because, look, we might be a little chaotic next week with all the holidays and stuff like that. I know if you're like my family, we have Christmas at our house tomorrow. We have Christmas at our house Christmas Day. We have Christmas on the 26th for parts of my wife's family. We have Christmas on the 27th. I mean, dude, it's just, bro, it's going to be chaotic the next couple of days. So I wanted to get this Kansas State LSU game out of the way for very quickly. That way that at least we've talked about it. And what do I expect? What do I expect from this game? Now, we'll get to Derek Young, who covers Kansas State, here in a minute. But there's not really anything that I'm looking at specifically. Like, I'm just sitting here looking forward to. I think the only thing that I'm going to watch is how do these young guys perform? How does Brad White let them loose? How does he let them go? Now, pray to God that COVID and these COVID restrictions and COVID tests don't strike LSU like they're doing everybody else. If they do, though, and you don't play, don't take this the wrong way. It's not that big of a deal. As long as you could get those 13 extra practices in, that's all that really matters. That's all really what the bowl game's about. The exhibition, yeah, maybe the money payout, sure. Everybody likes to make money. But the part of what LSU really needed is kind of out of the way. You needed some of these young guys to get in practice and do good. Now, it looks and it appears that guys like Mason Smith are going to be playing or be at least available to play on January the 4th. And I just want to see guys like him, Malik Neighbors, Brian Thomas, maybe Garrett Nussmeier gets an exception to play in the bowl game. Yeah, buddy. Go find mama. So let me tell you a very quick side note. I said Brad White. I meant Brad Davis. See, I'm off tonight, man. I am off tonight. But I want to see if Brad Davis lets these guys loose. I want to see what your young offensive linemen do. Does Xavier Hill get in there? Does Marlon Martinez get in there? Does Austin Deculus sit out? Who are you going to start at right tackle? Does Garrett Dellinger get in there? And look, I don't mean this in a wrong way, but you got to let these guys that are younger get in there. And you got to let them perform. I want to see what Jay Ward does. I want to see what some of these young DBs do. Does Sage Ryan come back? Can he make an impact? Can he do something that we haven't seen him do all season long? But you're going to be thin, and look, you're going to give up points. Defense is very thin. You're going to give up a good chunk of points. You're going to see a lot of new running backs. Ty Davis Price, more than likely, is not going to be here. Do you have a situation where, and the semester would be over? I mean, if John Emery passed all of his classes, how does John Emery get a shot? Because the truth is, the semester's over, and if he's back qualified, does he get a chance to play? What's going to happen with your two young backs in Corey Connor and Amari Goodwin? So where you don't need to stress over this game and everything that's going on, what I will tell you is it's going to be interesting to watch and fun to watch what they all do as you're building for the future. But I would expect Brad Davis to let it all fly out. You have nothing to hide. I've been begging for this all season long. If I'm LSU, and I'm serious in saying this, if I'm LSU, I come out with a trick play on the first play. Who gives a shit? Go out there and have fun. If you're going to play, have fun. Don't let anybody hold you down. So we'll see. We'll see. All right. Jerry Zimmerman says bowls are about competition. We're the Fighting Tigers, not the strategically opting out Tigers. I understand. And Jerry, I think that there's two schools of thought here, man. And this game doesn't mean look, everybody has a different opinion on this. Do I want LSU to win the bowl game? Sure. Do I want to watch LSU play? You're damn right I do. But it doesn't mean anything. For the kids going to the draft, it really doesn't benefit them any. The stupidest argument of all time is people saying, oh, well, they can boost their draft grade with a good bowl performance. No, the hell they can't. Maybe if it's the playoff. But a bowl game's not going to change what happened and what they put on film all season long. You want to see instances like Tyrann Mathieu when LSU played Texas A&M and he gets a couple of turnovers. You want to see guys and young guys at that go out there and ball out. Some of these kids have millions upon millions on the line, and you're worried. I mean, I get what you're saying. But are you talking about you being an LSU fan, or are you talking about what's best for the student athlete? Holden Lee says, according to Lon, Jay Ward might not play and go to the draft. Well, if that's the case, then why is he selling NIL deals? I don't know about that one. Robbie Robeek says, any word if Davis Price is coming back for his senior year? No. I don't expect him to come back. I don't expect him to come back at all. Simplified Crawfish Company says, y'all going to watch that big-ass Louisiana QB for Nevada? Yeah, Simper. I think so. Mo Peterson, what's up, Mo? Says, hashtag Ask Blake, anything on recruiting you said would be a surprise but never mentioned any names. Yeah, there's some Notre Dame guys that are going into the portal. Kari Gee, put his name in the portal after we got off the show or either this morning or it was like a couple of hours after we got off the show. I can't remember. But a 4-star safety that committed to Notre Dame that LSU was high after, if you remember, has put his name in the portal. There are a couple other guys in the transfer portal that LSU is actively recruiting. Again, I think that everybody needs to understand and be comfortable with there's going to be some guys that I believe from Notre Dame. Now, I told you this a couple nights ago. There's going to be kids from Notre Dame that are going to go in the portal, and the feeling is that they're going to transfer to LSU. Now, I hope that they're able to pull a Logan Diggs. Logan Diggs is a baller. But can you get a Kari Gee, a safety, and bring him in? He redshirted this season, and so he has 4 more seasons left to go. Jason on Facebook says, Merry Christmas. Merry Christmas to you, sir. Merry Christmas to you as well. Nick says, spill the recruiting beans. There you go. I just fully expect I just think that you're going to get some from Notre Dame. You might get the wide receiver from UTSA, I think it was. They're high after him, and they're going to go after more offensive linemen and athletic offensive linemen, not these, as Buddy Sanji would call them, the chubby bastards. Semper says, Blake, just wanted to let you know all the LSU sports shows I watch. This is the most entertaining and most informative of them all. Thank you. Thank you, Semper. I appreciate that, and I hope that you have a very, very Merry Christmas. Jason Morgan sends us $4.99 via super chat. Thank you, sir. He says, Scone's still acting like Texas and Miami got those NIL deals approved and LSU is behind. Look, I don't mean this in a wrong way. And I don't know how else to call it out or to say it or to do it. And I hope these guys have a great Christmas. But stop lying. Like, do the research of Texas still having to be in compliance with the charity and the offensive lineman getting paid. So is Miami. Google it. There is a lot of empty promises behind this NIL shit. A lot of empty promises. Oh, these guys at Texas A&M got an NIL deal. Show me. Show me. But there's a lot of empty promises. Come here. So I'm tired of all of that. All right. Listen, Daddy's got a guest coming on, so you got to tell him hello. Tell him Merry Christmas. Say Merry Christmas. Merry Christmas. You got like cookies and all this kind of stuff. Are you making cookies with Mama? You got a tattoo? Show him. All right. Love you. Daddy's got to get to his guest. Go, go, go. Go, go, go. Love you. All right. Let's get to our friend Derek Young, who covers Kansas State. Buddy, come close the door. This should not be bring your children to work day, but apparently it is. Come close the door. Oh, my gosh. All right. Let's get to Derek Young. We'll do that right after we get to this break. None better than our good friends over at the Drake Williams Law Firm, drakewilliamslawfirm.com, and our good friend Richie Roche over at Roche's Lawn and Landscape. Guys, have you been affected by Hurricane Ida? Is the insurance company giving you the runaround on your claims? Get in touch with the Drake Williams Law Firm today. drakewilliamslawfirm.com, 985-386-7600. That's 985-386-7600. And they will give you a free consultation and contact your insurance company and help you get to a better service. And look, the worst thing that can happen is literally they tell you that there's nothing that they can do. That's at drakewilliamslawfirm.com, 985-386-7600. Tell them your good friend Blake Ruffino at AYS sent you on by our good friend Richie Roche over at Roche's Lawn and Landscape. 225-937-7220. 225-937-7220. Guys, I brought Richie out to my house a couple of weeks ago, and he literally did a 3D sketch of my entire house and all of the landscaping that we're about to do. This technology and the service and the quality that they have beats any other landscape company that I've ever been a part of or ever dealt with. That's Richie Roche at Roche's Lawn and Landscape. Again, 225-937-7220. Tell him Blake Ruffino at AYS sent you on by. All right, let's go to our friend Derek Young, who covers Kansas State for Rivals. Derek, I know it's around the holidays. Thank you for coming on, man. There's a lot of craziness going on the LSU side and Kansas State as well. How are you doing tonight, my friend?
I'm good. How are you?
Doing good. Look, I don't really want to get political or about COVID or opting out in transfers, but LSU has had their issues with all three. Just tell our listeners, is there anything going on with Kansas State that you guys are monitoring? Is there problems with the roster like LSU is suffering? Or does everything seem to be okay so far and they're ready to go for the bowl game?
Everything is actually pretty okay for them. Now, they just sent all the players home for Christmas break. So we'll see what happens on that front upon their return, because obviously that can create issues in itself with just the landscape that we're in when it comes to COVID-19, of course. But as far as I know, they may have some active cases, but I'm not aware of any. I'm actually aware that they were kind of dealing with the flu bug the last week, and that was kind of going through the team, not necessarily COVID. And obviously they don't have any opt-outs. They've had, I think, since about October, 6 or 7 players enter the transfer portal. 2 of those happened during the season and another 4 or 5 after the season. And their last one is basically over 2 weeks away at this point. So they're really in probably better shape from a roster standpoint. It sounds like pretty convincingly. Obviously LSU with the problems at quarterback. If there is one position where you grimace a little bit right now for Kansas State, it's running back. Now they have Deuce Vaughn, so maybe that doesn't matter.
Right.
He's everyone knows he's a stud, and he was an AP first team All-American, and those don't grow on trees or anything of that sort. But their primary backups both entered the transfer portal already, and Joe Irvin and Jacardi Wright. So nobody else on the team has got a carry or a catch this year that's in the running back room. It's just Deuce Vaughn for the bowl game. So they'll be breaking in a new player more than likely at that point.
Derek Young, who covers or is a KSO editor, senior recruiting analyst, and Football Insider covering Kansas State for Rivals, is our guest. Look, how do you see this game going on? Because LSU has talent, and we've seen them compete with Alabama, only holding them to 6 running yards or rushing yards. But look, they got a lot of the opt-out. So accounting all of that, how do you see this game going on January the 4th?
It's probably going to be a close game. Now, LSU is considerably more talented, but they've kind of played to the caliber of their opponent, whether that's a really good opponent or a really bad opponent, that they kind of let people hang around regardless of who's on the other sideline. Kansas State's probably going to be, like we just said, and a better health standpoint and all that. Skylar Thompson will be healthy at quarterback to play the game as well. So I envision a pretty close game, because LSU's been in a lot of close games this year. Kansas State's been in a lot of close games this year. And LSU's probably can still out-talent the Wildcats, but it's going to be harder to do so when a lot of their best players are not going to play. Right,
and depth comes to be a big issue for LSU as this game goes on.
And coaching.
Right. Absolutely. It's funny how coaching actually matters, right?
Yeah.
Derek, I think for me, I'm right there with you. There's a lot of things that I'm intrigued about this game, because, look, there's going to be a lot of kids and a lot of players that hasn't really played a lot for LSU this year against really a good and fundamental Kansas State team. For our listeners who have not watched Kansas State a lot, what has been their strength this season and maybe some of their weaknesses?
They're pretty good. They besides about a 3 or 4 game stretch where the majority of their losses came, they've played really good defense this year. The first 3 conference games notwithstanding, it's probably been one of the better defenses in the Big 12. They have an AP, I think, honorable mention and defensive lineman that was the Big 12 defensive lineman of the year, and Felix Anudike-Uzomah. He had a game where
Right.
he recorded 4 sacks. And if not for rules technicality, it would have been a 6-sack game and would have tied the NCAA record. So he's quite a stud. They got some players on the defensive side of the ball. Offensively, it's been, kind of a mixed bag, and they were already relieved the offensive coordinator from his duties. So they'll be breaking in a new interim offensive coordinator, and it does happen to be a former Heisman runner-up Colin Klein, as a lot of people will probably remember that name. He'll be the offensive coordinator for Kansas State in the bowl game, and perhaps he'll become the permanent guy if he, I guess, impresses the head coach enough in the lead up to the game and then the game itself. So, but their passing game is inconsistency is probably being too nice, but that's what I would characterize it as. And just not a lot of dynamic weapons on the offensive side of the ball. Pretty good offensive line, but in terms of the skill position, it's Deuce Vaughn, and then we're trying to find some other characters to really explode on that side of the ball.
Derek, we do have a lot of questions coming in for you here. One, we started this show about best Christmas movie, and a lot of people are asking, so I'm just going to ask you, get a little off topic, and then get back. But Blaine Smith says, #Ask Derek, what's your favorite Christmas movie?
If Die Hard counts, I would say Die Hard.
Thank you.
But if not, Home Alone. I think I would go Home Alone. I know a lot of people like The Grinch, Elf, Christmas Vacation, but I'm more of a Home Alone guy.
Look, how do you not count Die Hard as a Christmas movie? I mean, Derek, I really don't understand it.
Yeah, I don't. I mean, it's a good movie. I'll watch it any time of the year, really.
Oh, I'm literally as soon as we're off of this podcast, I'm going to watch it. That's not that's my plans. And Bo Holly says, #Ask Derek, what is your final score prediction of this game? Where do you see this game? Do you see it being like a 25 to 30 point game, or do you see it kind of going back and forth for both of them?
It'll stay tight, I think, throughout the game. Now, here's the one thing I kind of did some research on, because we always hear about the SEC teams. If they're not playing in a Premier Bowl, how much do they care? You look at LSU's bowl history; they're pretty good in bowl games. They're not like a lot of the SEC teams where they take that game off. Maybe we'll see if that changes with basically an interim lame duck coaching staff. I don't know if that changes the dynamics, but generally LSU plays pretty well in a bowl game. So I think they win, but I think we're looking at a touchdown game. It'll be decided by 7 points, 31-24, something like that, or maybe 28-21. It'll be within a score, I think.
I'm right there with you. I mean, there's not, and especially just, I think, coming off the simplicity of, and I really, Derek, I kind of feel bad because I agree with you, but then on the back of my head, I'm like, dude, we don't know what these younger guys for LSU is going to do. There's more questions there than there is maybe for Kansas State. So I'm kind of like, man, I'm just finally going to have a game where I sit back and be like, man, I really just don't know. Derek Young is our guest. We'll let you guys know where you can follow him on social media and everything like that. A couple more for you, brother, and we'll get you out of here. And so gracious for your time during the holiday season. If there's one player that's going to stand out for Kansas State on January 4th, who is that one player that you're specifically picking that you think that can do some good things against LSU?
LSU's offensive line's kind of been a mixed bag this year. I mean, they were one of the worst rushing offenses at one point and then just exploded on the ground. So I don't know what to think of their offensive line, but Felix Anudike-Uzomah is one of the best defensive linemen in the Big 12. I already talked about that. I think he had 12 sacks, maybe a little bit more, a little bit less. I don't have that exact number off the top of my head, but he's a pretty good ball player. And I think that, some of the defensive linemen have had success against the Tigers this year. So that one jumps off the page to me just because he's also a pretty young player. And when you talk about this portion of practice, football practice for any program, this is when young players can really take off. And the fact that he was already pretty good, I would have to think that he has potential to have a really, a pretty solid performance. And Deuce Vaughn, offensively, just because he is their best player, of course. But, now he's got 3-4 weeks of rest, so he's going to look even more fresh. LSU, pretty fast defense, but he faces some some talented defenses in the Big 12 too. Baylor and Oklahoma State were two of the best defenses in the country this year, and he still wreaked havoc. It doesn't really. He's a good football player regardless of the opponent, regardless of the talent on the other side of the ball, because he could play anywhere in the country.
Right. And look, only a 6-point game against Oklahoma. I get it. I know how it was. It still was competitive against Oklahoma State. I don't think this is a pushover. Some LSU fans think that it is. And I think that LSU could be – they're going to get into a physical mismatch at times if they're not prepared, if they're not ready to go. Derek, last one, my man, and we'll get you out of here. And I know that this is kind of a general term, and I know it's from LSU, but you're from an outside looking in standpoint, right? Like you had Bill Snyder. You have a lot of guys there that come back to Kansas State. When you see something like what happened at LSU, when you see Brian Kelly leave Notre Dame to come here, Les Miles, Ed Orgeron being fired in the middle of the season, for a program that's had a coach in Bill Snyder that's been there for so long, and you've covered them, and I know that you're an Ohio native, but what is the fan base at Kansas State thinking about this whole LSU thing right now and everything that they have going on? Is there man, this is just chaos? Or
it's chaos. It's chaos because Miles Brennan was in the transfer portal, and then he was not in the transfer portal. Max Johnson's already committed to Texas A&M.
Right.
Garrett Nussmeier could be playing, but then you don't know because of the redshirt thing. Because it's not in his best interest to play. It's really not. Because why would you wait a year on one bowl game that your fans probably don't care about even that much, let alone the locker room, and it's for a coaching staff that's not going to be there, so he probably shouldn't play. So that throws in there an arguably a walk-on quarterback or converted wide receiver, and then all of a sudden now we're talking about a waiver, and that's before. And I don't, and I understand, like I'm sympathetic to what's going on there, but I think the waiver is I think that's kind of silly, because I think they already get enough charity. They get to play 4 games. Like you used to not be able to play at all if you were redshirting. So 4 games is quite a bit of charity, but that's besides the point. But yeah, chaos, because that doesn't even begin to talk about what's happened from a coaching standpoint. They fired each of their last few coaches, Les Miles and Ed Orgeron. They both won a national title. Nick Saban won a national title, and now he's at one of their rivals. And now they have Brian Kelly, who's faking a Southern accent, after leaving LSU. And I had to get that in there. I think Brian Kelly's going to do a really good job at LSU. LSU is one of the best jobs in America, probably a top 3 job, because the standard is so high. The compensation is so high. You just took a coach from Notre Dame. That tells you how good of a job LSU is. And it's easy to win a national title there. Every coach does it.
Right. Well, you do have one more, because this is a fan question. They keep asking about Kansas State's quarterback. Who will the QB be? But you can go into there. Who's going to be the starting guy for Kansas State against LSU?
Yeah, it's going to be Skylar Thompson. He's going to be healthy enough to go. Now, if it was Will Howard, I think LSU probably becomes a double-digit favorite. They might already be a double-digit favorite. I'm not sure. I haven't even seen the line.
I haven't got it either.
But if Skylar Thompson's quarterback, and I have every reason to expect him to be the quarterback, I think, like I said, it's a 1-score game.
All right. That's Derek Taylor. Man, we're going to have to bring you back before the game. Derek Taylor Young. We're going to have to bring you before the game starts. Hopefully, I just wanted to get you in here and talk about Kansas State and LSU before the game starts, because you know how holiday seasons is, man. It's always chaotic. But tell everybody where they can catch all your stuff, and I appreciate you coming on.
Yeah, well, I'm on Twitter. I'm at DYoung Rivals. I'm with the Rivals.com network, but it's K-State Online's the site, and I've been doing it since 2017 for Kansas State. I covered Iowa beforehand. But yeah, KStateOnline.com. It's for the Rivals network, and on Twitter, DYoung Rivals.
Thank you, my friend. You have a very Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, and Happy New Year. We'll talk to you again soon.
Absolutely, anytime.
That is Derek Young. Guys, I mean, look, great to have him on, because it gives us some insight about Kansas State. I mean, I'm sure a lot of you don't. I had a couple comments in here like, hey, man, we really didn't follow Kansas State a lot this year. And I understand it. And that's why we bring on great guests like Derek, so we can so you can hear it. I see some people firing in here. LSU's it's like a 3.5 point favorite, which is so shocking to me, man. LSU plus 3.5. So they're not the favorite. They're the 3.5 point underdog. Yeah, I was about to say, there's no way, man. I mean, with everything LSU, and look, if we're being honest here, LSU only being a let's call it what it is, a 4-point underdog. I don't look. Do I think LSU can go in here and win? Yes. Like, I do think LSU can go in here and win. But, man, when you're missing the coaching staff and the players that you're missing, I mean, look, I just think it's going to be tough. It's just going to be tough. And I'm not saying they can't do it, but I'm just not expecting it either way. Ryan Thibodeau says, come on, UCF, hashtag Gus Bus. Oh, my gosh. I'm a little surprised that he didn't try to go after Bo Nix harder than he did. Carl Dunn says, Florida 10, UCF 9. Yeah. I was watching it before the show started, man. I'm just not really fired up for that game. Simber says LSU will win this game. Look, they may. And I'm not trying to shoot, guys, you know this. I'm not trying to shoot LSU down. The only thing that worries me, is just the simple fact that you have so many people out. Guys, you're going to have, if you're lucky, you might have 48, 49 scholarship guys playing. If you're lucky. With that being said, when Kansas State has 80 and you have 41, it's not saying that you can't win. It's just to say it's a lot tougher. So I just don't have I just don't have any expectations, really. I know that sounds sad, but I just really don't. Penn Jones says 31-24 LSU. Could be. But, guys, here's another thing. Are we going to score 31 points with a walk-on quarterback that we've never seen play? Like, I know a lot of people are talking about Jontre Kirkland. Maybe he's in there. Maybe he's not. But we're talking about scoring 31 points with Matt O'Dowd. And I'm not trying to poo-poo on Matt O'Dowd, but if LSU is going to win it, it's going to be like 17-14. That's how I see it. Run the football, punt it, do whatever you got to do. But, guys, you do have a walk-on quarterback. You do have on a walk-on. All right, we're going to get to John Hendricks in just a minute. I just texted him and let him know he can come on in whenever he wants to. And we'll bring him in here and talk some Saints. Bo Holly says, if I were a freshman or sophomore, I would be coming our balls. I would be coming our balls to the wall, boot up. Okay. Yep. Chris English says it was 48-49 until they gave a couple of walk-on scholarships. Exactly. They gave 2. And so you might be, again, you're going to be lucky. There's going to be other guys that are probably going to opt out. There's going to be other guys that might go down. You know, God forbid, with everybody testing positive for COVID, guys, you got to have no issues to play this bowl game. 0 issues. And look, you got a minute, man. You got what, 9-10 days? Not saying it can't, but you're going to have to run the football. Marvin Mackey says, no, 17-14 LSU. Look, it's going to have to be. And I'm not trying to, as Semper says, Matt O'Dowd about to show out. Maybe he will. But it's like, you know, we're about to talk to John Hendricks. Are we expecting Ian Book to come in here for the Saints and light it up like his name's Tom Brady? Like, what would you do if Ian Book came in here this upcoming Monday and started laying the smack it down on everybody's candy ass? Now, first off, if he did, everybody's going to be celebrating. But I just don't see Matt O'Dowd, the true freshman walk-on quarterback, putting up massive amounts of points. Maybe he does, man. Maybe I'm just crazy. Maybe I'm crazy. All right, let's get to John. Speaking of John Hendricks and Ian Book, especially, let's get to John Hendricks. Let's get some bills paid around this thing, and then we'll get to him. None better than our good friend John Patton over at GMFS Mortgage. Guys, are you buying a new home, saving money on the mortgage that you have now, or even wanting to do a cash-out refi? The timing has never been better. Get in touch with John Patton today at 225-614-1234. That's 225-614-1234. If you want to buy that new home, save money on that new mortgage, you're doing the cash-out refi. Guys, I'm going through the process now as we just added on to our house and refinancing. John and his team has been absolutely fantastic, being there with us every step of the way. Purchase, refinance, build, and renovate. Nobody's better than John Patton. Again, 225-614-1234. Tell him Blake Ruffino sent you on by. All right, let's get to our man, John J. Hendricks. The people in the streets call him the Saints prophet. John, how are you?
I'm good. How about y'all?
Well, look, there really wasn't a lot of Saints news today, so I guess we're all good, right?
Nah.
Obviously,
this is boring. This is the part where I'm like literally set my butt in the chair and didn't leave for a couple hours. That's just like I had to go to the bathroom. That was about it. But I'm like, so much happened and so much chaos, and that's just kind of been this season in a nutshell. But yeah, it's fun.
The day that all right, go ahead. My bad. I'm sorry.
No, I was just saying if it wasn't, then I don't know. I don't know what it'd be like. I mean, even a team like the Jaguars has stuff happen.
Right. The day that the Saints, that LSU was hiring and firing coaches, position coaches. John, I sat right here, did not move, and was on the phone. And my wife walks in, it's like, "What are you doing?" I'm like, "Shut up, Kevin Falk's not coming back as a running backs coach." Sources, Kevin Falk's not coming back. And it's like, I hate those days, but we do got to talk about it. John, this is about to be the most chaotic thing that the Saints have gone through. I mean, look, Bountygate is one thing, but this has got to be one of the more chaotic things. I know you put out a very funny tweet, but you were being serious. I mean, look, it's Ian Book, and he's the only guy there. What do you do? Do you think the Saints are going to sign another quarterback? And if you missed it, Taysom Hill and Trevor Siemian being out. Ian Book's the guy, but what else can he do just in case of emergency?
Yeah, I mean, first and foremost, if something were crazy were to happen to Ian Book, and again, he's got to survive the league's protocol stuff as far as COVID goes. So you're hoping that he doesn't get popped for COVID. And then if he's able to go on game day and start like we think he's going to have to start on this game, then if something happens to him in a game, Alvin Kamara is kind of your emergency quarterback, if you will. I mean, that's kind of where they were at. Could have been Adam Troutman because he played some quarterback in school, but he's on the COVID list too. You got 11 players that are affected right now, and you just hope it doesn't keep going because Dennis Allen actually called off walkthroughs, and right now we're not even allowed at the facility. That's just kind of how things are right now across the NFL with protocols and stuff. But look, they're going to have to get somebody, even if they just bring them on a practice squad, because you got to remember with any of these COVID people that are on the roster, if they get moved to the COVID list, you can bring up those guys from the practice squad as COVID replacements, and they're not really going to affect much, but you're going to have to get a secondary quarterback. They tried out somebody a couple weeks ago. His name eludes me because it was that relevant, if you will, but they'll look somewhere. I know people said, "Oh, let's," and I joked, it's like, "Oh, Drew can come back," and what an omen, he could come back. That's not going to happen. And then Phillip Rivers was another suggestion. Just don't see it happen. But look, as far as we know, it's Ian Book the whole way until they get past this COVID stuff.
John, what would you do? What would you do if Drew just said, ripped off his shirt and tie and said, "For the city," and he ran out there? I mean, it's not happening, but it would be the most chaotic thing in NFL history. It's not going to happen, but it'd be something.
I would just tell you that's the Hollywood story, right? You had this temptation. It was temptation when Jameis got hurt because everybody's like, "Hey, Drew, come back," and all that, and then it's like, man, they need me. Even if it was just like emergency quarterback or just somebody helping in this situation, like that would just be crazy if something like that would ever happen. But it's not. He's pretty much come to peace with him not playing football again.
So, John, take us through, and I know, and John Hendricks, who covers the Saints for SI and does his own podcast on Believe in Saints, we'll let you know where you can catch all of his stuff. we're obviously focusing on the quarterbacks, but the Saints do have some other COVID protocols along with injuries. Tell us who else is out, because, I mean, look, it was a long list of guys. Who else is not expected to play this upcoming Monday?
Yeah, and again, it depends on NFL's testing. I mean, it's Thursday, so again, their outlook to pop for the COVID test and to be able to play on Monday is going to be a little bit harder. Obviously, depends on vaccination status and symptomatic or, all this other stuff. But as of right now, you don't have your starting tight end in Adam Troutman. You don't have Juwan Johnson. You're not going to have Malcolm Jenkins, presumably. And that one's, you could bring in PJ Williams. So that's not a horrible drop off. The big concern, I think, is defensive line. Christian Ringo is a guy that you're not going to have. Caden Ellis has been hurt. I don't think that's a horrible thing. Jeff Heath has been more of a special teams guy. And then you got the real problem is the offensive line, because you don't have Ryan Ramczyk still. You don't have Teron Armstead at this point in time, and they were not non-participants in Thursday's practice right now, which was estimated because Dennis Allen called off things and they're supposed to do a walkthrough. So we have to pay attention to that Friday and such, and the final injury report, just to see how that shapes out. But the guy they rolled in last weekend to fill in, Jordan Mills, he's on the list. So really they're down to one healthy tackle. That's James Hurst. So they're going to have to do some major shifting there. They've got some guys on the practice squad, like a Caleb Beninock as a veteran, or a Forrest Lamp, who some people might remember. But I think for me, that's probably the biggest thing is you can't afford anything to happen to Ian Book, because you're in a situation like the Broncos game that happened last year. And then B, you've got to get some healthy offensive linemen. And so they tried out a couple last week and some defensive linemen last week, but right now, the offensive line is really where I'm most concerned, because they're already down and out and can't afford much more.
Well, John, they waived Will Clapp. I mean, to my knowledge, he's not on an active NFL roster. Do you think that he's an option to bring back, or no?
Oh, yeah, of course. That's somebody they can bring in easily. And they had James Carpenter, the guy from Alabama they used in the jumbo sets. He's also on the COVID list. So it would only make sense for Clapp to come back as depth and somebody that can be used in those jumbo sets. I mean, that's just kind of a no-brainer. And guys like that, they always – those roster turns, those Andy Tanners, those – Austin Cars, those guys that just pop in and out of the roster as the thing is, it continues to go. But that would be a smart thing for them to do. And I would expect some of these things, they're going to wait and see probably how some of these other tests show up, and then they're going to figure out what they need to do to make sure they put together a good roster for a game day.
Give me JT Gray. That's all I know. Let him start. The man deserves it. Anyway, he's one of my favorite, man. Just everything he does on special teams. John Hendricks, our guest. John, the Saints really need this win, and it's kind of like you're facing off not just against Miami, but you're facing off really against a whole bunch of other things. How does the Saints win this game Monday? I mean, look, Ian Book's a good quarterback, okay? But the problem is that his first start is kind of a must-win. It's a very tough situation to be in. How do you foresee them winning this game?
Well, I think Nick Vannett said it best today when we talked to him. He said that they got to do enough things to kind of take the pressure off of him. And again, for what comes to mind is lean on the ground game. Tampa did a really great job, and they always do a good job of focusing in on isolating Alvin Kamara, much like the Saints do a great job on Tom Brady. So, again, I expect him to have a little bit more success in the run game. Obviously, who's going to be available on the offensive line is one thing, but Kamara and Ingram, that 1-2 punch, I think that's a great way to help ease Book into some situations. Do some things as a play caller, whether it's Pete Carmichael or if Sean Payton comes back, because, again, we didn't even really talk about him being gone still. But, do some things at work, whether that's some tight end screens, some running back screens, some short stuff. I like the thing against the Jets where Marquez Callaway, just throw a quick little pass to the sideline, let him do something with it, right? And so I think that's the thing is offensively, there's the challenge is to move the football. Defensively, can you replicate even a fraction of what you did against Tampa? Because Tua is a very smart quarterback. He's a very good quarterback. Their run game really got going last week against the Jets. They did struggle a little bit, but Duke Johnson looked good. Myles Gaskin looked good. And then you have obviously Devontae Parker, Mike Gesicki. This is an offense that's pretty talented. They've got some weapons there. And, again, as long as you get the Saints, especially if they play at 80 to 90% capacity on defense, I think what they're capable of, I think they should be able to be fine defensively. My concern is can you put together enough drives and get enough points to be able to weather the storm here? And, lo and behold, Brett Maher has done a fantastic job after all these kicking issues that the Saints have had. He's got to be able to be money. And again, I hate to say he's got to be darn near perfect, but this is just the point you're at with 3 games to go. You can't afford to leave anything on the table.
No, you're right. He does. So, and I hate the what if game, but I'm going to play the what if game here. Like, I really hate the sports what if game. Like, well, what if, what's it? Not Cook. What was the tight end last year?
Jared Cook.
Cook.
You're thinking Jared Cook.
Yeah. What if Jared Cook doesn't fumble the ball? Like, bro, there was 59 other minutes. Like there's other things you can do, but I'm going to play in here. From a quarterback room perspective, let's just act like these guys aren't out for just a minute. Is this the best thing that could happen for Saints and for the Saints in a way to see what they have in Ian Book? Like, I really wanted to see Ian Book play. He did some good things at Notre Dame. Do you think that this, in hindsight, do you think that this is a good thing?
I think so. Again, I was really impressed with him as a rookie. And again, it's in training camp and preseason. Right. Again, he wasn't setting the world on fire. But again, we talked about it. There's a lot of mannerisms that I wrote about him that he had that were like Drew Brees. And again, I'm not saying the guy's Drew Brees. I'm just saying the way he carries himself, the way he's kind of smart, and the way he's a diminutive quarterback, if you will, because, if you're not 6 feet and as a quarterback or whatever, you're barely 6 feet. And there's that thing that they tell you you're too small or whatever. But Drew was an exception to that. But, look, I think he's got some great instincts. I think he's put some really good tape at Notre Dame. The interest was pretty real on him during the preseason and such about teams potentially wanting to trade for him or just making calls about it. Not that they were going to do that. But again, talked about it a couple weeks ago that Taysom Hill had an amazing opportunity on his hands because, with Jameis being out and Trevor Siemian not doing well, we always talk about who's that next quarterback, and everybody's kind of focused over here on Russell Wilson and, Deshaun Watson and Aaron Rodgers and all these guys. And then it's like, I was just kind of saying, if Taysom Hill were to win the final games, get the Saints into the playoffs, win a playoff game, it's going to be kind of hard not to talk about Taysom as a future option. But with Book, I think it's good to see what you have in him. The circumstances are tough. Again, playing at home is probably better than playing on the road in Miami for him, just because it's going to be in a dome. It's a little bit more controlled. I know maybe, he has a little bit of 8 Mile, might puke a few times before the game because this is a big deal. You know what I'm saying? It's just that big of a deal for him. And so I think he's got enough poise and smarts and intelligence to be able to move the ball well. Again, you don't need him to be Drew. You don't need him to be James. You don't need him to be Taysom. The thing about the quarterbacks this year, you don't have to throw it 30, 40 times a game for the Saints to win. Throw it 20 times, be efficient on those passes, move the chains, lean on that ground game. He does not have to be Superman here.
2 more for you, John, and we'll get you out of here. I forget who asked this question, and I'm missing it. Oh, here it is. Blaine Smith says, #AskJohn, favorite Christmas movie. Now, do you consider Die Hard a Christmas movie? Because if you don't,
yeah,
we
of course.
Okay.
That's a given. That's a given.
Now, you know how people get, and I really don't understand the debate, but what is your favorite Christmas movie?
Man, I've got so many. I mean, I'm a Home Alone guy. That's like my tradition. I have to watch that. Christmas Vacation, National Lampoon. I got to watch that one. I've got to watch Elf, and I've got to watch the Santa Claus with my kids. I mean, those are usually my top few that I have to watch. And maybe the Polar Express. This is kind of a cool movie, but man, just anything that you can do Christmas wise is just, I love Christmas movies, and I don't care. Oh, and I'll give you one that's nobody probably ever guessed. Ernest Saves Christmas. I'm a huge Ernest fan, and if anybody who's older than 30 probably knows who Ernest is, and that's one of the best Santa Clauses I've ever seen on a movie. So.
When I got older, I respected Ernest. I got to be honest, he scared the shit out of me as a kid. Right?
Dr. Demento, or what was it? I can't remember. When he dressed up in like a robot and stuff. And yeah.
That stuff freaked me out, man. Like
some of you kids have no idea, and I'm 37, just so you know. I'm not a kid, but it looked like I'm 20 something. But no, I know plenty about Ernest.
So. Well, look, as growing up in a single parent household, I always felt like someone's going to break in our house and they're going to look just like Ernest. Like that's what I pictured. like our
Hey,
Burton
Vern.
look like. You're right.
Hey,
So,
Blake. Hey, Blake. No, I
you're
mean
right.
Blake.
Yeah, Tucker would have. I would have gone straight New Orleans really quick. Somebody was going to
Right.
get slapped. They were going to get glass in their ass, as our boy from
Oh,
Golden
man.
Mayo says. Anyway, last one, John. If they win Sunday, and they go, what would they be? 9-7, correct? At that point,
8-7. They're 7-7 right now. It'd be 8-7.
There would be a win away, you think, from getting into the playoff? I mean, the way that it's structured, or do you think they got to get to 10 wins?
I think they got to get to 10 because here's the problem is you can't rely on these other teams to do your dirty work. And you go Thursday night, as we're speaking, you definitely could use the Titans to win because if the 49ers could fail at the end of the year, that could help the Saints. Right. You just can't get in a tie with the Eagles. That's the biggest thing. I think the Eagles, I mean, they got the easier path because they're playing the Giants this weekend. And, as far as the Vikings, they got the Rams. So and I said it earlier on a video I shot as like, it's going to make a lot of people puke, but the Rams, you kind of want them to win at this point and beat the Vikings because that would help the Saints out. So, I believe that this is a team, again, it doesn't matter how you started the first half. It's all about how you play now until the postseason again. And I think this is a team, if they can keep up things defensively and then figure out some stuff offensively, this is a team that I don't think anybody wants to play in the playoffs. And, I know some people said, oh, they got a tank at 5-7. And I still just think they're just too talented, even with all the injuries and too well coached. Right. So I feel like you got to win these games ahead of you. And if they can beat Miami, I feel good about Carolina. And if it comes down to Atlanta week 18, what an opportunity is all I'd say.
I'm going to go nuts. If it's a win all game against Atlanta, I'm going to be there. I'm just going to let you know. John, I hope you have a Merry Christmas and Happy Holidays and a great New Year, my friend. Tell everybody where they can catch all your stuff and all the great stuff that you're doing.
Yeah, I definitely appreciate you having me on, and Merry Christmas to you and yours as well, and to the entire community for sure for Are You Serious? And so, look, follow us at si.com/NFL/Saints, or just go to Saints News Network. Follow me on Twitter at John J. Hendricks. Just like Jimmy, no relation, because I always tell people I'd be doing some other things because I'd be collecting royalties. You know what I mean? So, but it's just like that, right? It's not like that for me. So definitely check us out on Believe in Saints. Do a great show with Terrence Copper, and he's smart. We didn't talk about it on here, but wide receivers perspective on that Chris Godwin hit, that was a lot of smoke and mirrors and controversy that these Bucs fans started crying about. And so from a wide receivers perspective, it looked like a pretty clean hit, and it was football. So
we'll go there right quick. Elaborate on that.
Yeah. So, I mean, again, you look at it and you're told and you're taught you can't make head contact. You can't do all these different things, right? And from a DB's perspective, I drew this parallel again. I'm going to show my age, but I brought up somebody like Steve Atwater, who played for the Broncos, and he was just a terror when he hit players. He couldn't play in today's league. There's no way, just because you can't do certain things. So again, you look at the play itself. Again, that's kind of the technique, because if he catches it and you don't get him down, there's yards after catch. I also think a little bit that's on Tom Brady. You can't throw your receiver into a situation like that. Nobody's going to talk about it. They're just going to focus on PJ Williams and what he did, labeling him this dirty player, all that. That's a bunch of hogwash, if you will, just the PG version of what I can say probably. But, Terrence Copper, I mean, again, he said that's just how it's coached. Didn't think it was a dirty play. You saw Deuce McAllister on Twitter. If you haven't, it's not a dirty play. Just so many people are so hurt, and it's mainly Bucs fans. And look, everybody wants to talk about that. Devin White's dirty tackle on Jameis Winston. Love Devin White to death, but you can't do that. And again, they had other guys like Antoine Winfield hitting like that too. So everybody does it, but it's a shame that what happened to Chris Godwin. I'll say that. Just anybody in general. It's a shame what happened to Jameis, shame what happened to Michael Thomas, all these things. But at the end of the day, do you want to play flag football, or do you want to actually play football? You got to watch how you tackle. You got to watch where you tackle. This seemed like the ideal spot. I mean, you go low, certain people feel certain ways, but what else are you supposed to do to prevent somebody from turning a single catch like that into a big play?
I'll say what you can't say. It's bullshit, and they need to stop. especially when the left tackle Smith, and we're taught this as offensive linemen, especially the left tackle, and you're doing a chop block on the outside of the knee. Now, that should have been called, but they don't do that. Okay, so look, I love sticking up for offensive linemen. They never hold, in my opinion, but that's kind of like the unwritten rule that you can't do. So, and I went on a Bucks podcast and told them well, I ain't gonna say it on my show because I'm not, but I'm right there with you, John. They got to sew it up. So what, you got beat. But either way, let's not get riled up right here before Christmas. Thank you, my friend, and we'll talk again soon.
All right, guys. Thank y'all for having me. Appreciate it. Have a good one. I really appreciate it. Just an awesome dude. All right. Okay. We'll end it here. Guys, have a very Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. Happy holidays to you and yours. We'll see you hopefully soon, but if we don't, we're going to take a little bit of a break as it is the holiday season. We hope that everybody has a safe and Merry Christmas. And I'm sure I'll hop on here soon, or at least Twitter Spaces. But we'll see y'all soon. Y'all have a good night. Peace out, Girl Scouts.